So you had asked about spinal implants. So this is a spinal implant that we did for Medtronic, and it's made out of titanium, and we actually did load testing on this with test devices. But one of the things that is, that I love most is actually you can take ideas and you can, it can be, conceptual parameters, but it's always the empirical testing. And so when you can, put this in a surgeon's hand, and when you can touch it, there's just all kinds of things that you learn. And in our kind of field, you say, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and a prototype is worth 1,000 pictures. My dad was in the machine tool business. I'm supporting the steel industry here in Birmingham for decades when I was growing up. And as you guys know, Birmingham is now, home to UAB, and so the medical research and technology development here in Birmingham is just incredible. I think that there's tremendous opportunities here, and everyone needs design.
From my perspective, I've always loved science. I've always loved biology, and so I always excelled in those areas in school. And so after I graduated with a bachelor's in biology, I began working in the science industry, particularly biotechnology. And then I moved to UAB and began working in a research laboratory.
My name is Dr. Ho Uk Jun, and I am professor of biomedical engineering at University of Alabama at Birmingham. Yeah, I really liked biology and medicine and mature. Then I came to USA in 1999 to study my PhD in bioengineering at Rice University.
I would define biomedical engineering as coming up with ideas that are based on engineering principles to be used in healthcare.
UAB got really serious about entrepreneurship back in 2016, 2017, and they had raised some money to build an entrepreneurship program. If you're a young person wanting to build a career, traditionally one might look for a job with a large company and stay there for a long time, but fewer and fewer people are wanting to do that, and there are fewer and fewer jobs that are like that. And so the entrepreneurial sector today is where over 90% of the jobs come from.
Over time I decided that patient care was not my thing, so it was better to design the things that would be used in medicine. And you have a much bigger impact by designing things that are used by lots of different people rather than just whatever your patient population is.
It's quite opposite from the mindset that sells solutions. Don't sell solutions, fix problems. Look for problems, look for big unanswered questions and become intrigued by them, and train yourself so that you're able to go to sleep at night with big unanswered questions in your mind.
Here it is. I got it right here. If you're just going to get one x-ray as a patient, you're going to get a very small dosage of radiation and it's completely safe. But if you're a surgeon or a cardiologist and you're exposed to radiation next to your patient every day, numerous times, that's where it gets challenging. Standing all the time and wearing a heavy lead apron is very fatiguing. And so the idea was to use a lead acrylic panel, which would act like a transparent wall, it actually has lead particulates suspended in it at such a homogeneous density that this is equivalent to wearing a piece of lead.
Yeah, I realized how important it was to think like an engineer, and so better doing the engineering design process, but also understanding how to commercialize that.
There's a lot of people that are relying on you to be successful, to return their investments, and then there's the regulatory issues as well. When you're at an academic institution, you're protected under their umbrella in many, many facets, whereas when you go to industry, you're on an island and you have to figure out and solve the problems on your own. So it's very challenging.
We have one recent graduate of our program who is an entrepreneur and made over $2 million last year with his business, but I think there'll be many more to come, some real success stories.
You also be aware about all the IP, intellectual property, so you need to be aware about some of the patent, the procedure, and also how you can protect your intellectual property.
A lot of these entrepreneurial ventures in the biotech space have highly innovative core technologies that they use. That's really we call it the Mickey Mouse, you know, the important, unique thing that makes their venture special. So whether they own the intellectual property or they're licensing it or whatever the deal is, this can pose a challenge, because if you don't have the protection that's associated with owning your own intellectual property, it's easier for competitors to imitate or to do what you're doing and then compete directly with you in going after a market or a community. That's probably the number one challenge that biotech ventures face.
Failure is just part of the process. And when we create new designs, just as you guys have seen here in the shop, we go through tens and even hundreds of prototypes. And all of the early prototypes essentially have failed in some way. But by building a physical artifact, oftentimes, and doing an empirical test, you and your team and the client, the entire collaborative team, can gain insights that enable you to take the next step, which is going to be a little bit more directed and a little bit more sophisticated and precise. And you just continue through that and cycle through.
When you set out with a goal and you don't listen to the data, you end up going down a wrong path. So I try to keep a very open mind, and we have projects where we think we know where the long-term benefit will lie, and what scenarios and what fields and what patient population, but we don't always know. And so I think it's best to keep an open mind.
My greatest feeling of achievement is to see other people respond to the design. And you know, one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had, the particular event in the story, is that when we developed this new wheelchair for UAB, it's a lot more comfortable than a regular chair. And we wanted to validate too that the design was in fact doing what we thought it could do. And this young man had brought his grandmother to the hospital, and we only had a small number of our new chairs, and they brought a conventional wheelchair to their car, and he said, no, I want my grandmother to ride in that spaceship. And that was the validation. You know, he didn't understand the technology, but he intuitively could see our chair and understand how much thought went into it, and that's what he wanted for his family member. So it's that kind of a thing.